It's time for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning with our super Yolanda Roberts on top of what's making rounds this morning.
Hi, Benga. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good
Always
to
a
see
delight.
you. Absolutely. Are you ready for the newspapers this
I'm
morning?
always eager to get to
Yeah.
know what's in the offing.
As we were going through the headlines, those are some of the top stories that we're going to carry
Indeed.
today.
Indeed.
Yeah, so let's look more in detail. First, we're going to start off with our sister publication, which is This Day. So if we can pull that up so we can take a look at what's on the front. Front and center, we have EFCC detains El-Rufai as DSS files cybercrime charges. Now, Atiku accuses the FG of persecuting ex-Kaduna governor. Protesters also stormed Kaduna Assembly demanding an update on the probe of El-Rufai's administration. Very interesting headline there. We'll come back to that a little later, but let's move on to what's in the Punch. If we can pull up the Punch right now, we have same story, 432 billion naira probe. EFCC detains El-Rufai, DSS on standby. Ex-governor grilled by EFCC as the federal government files charges over alleged NSA phone tapping. As well, the DSS reopens Dadiyata case, seizes passport, summons sons for questioning. Rival protesters clash at EFCC headquarters in Abuja and the Kaduna Assembly complex. Still in the Punch, we have a 2027 National Assembly eyes January the 16th for presidential poll, suspends electoral bill harmonization. More on that later. And in the front there, we also see this picture of these three where court remanded the suspects of the killers, who are the killers of a South African-based Nigerian student. Moving on from the Punch, let's take a look at what's going on in The Guardian. 2027 protesters storm National Assembly as debate on Electoral Act resumes. Benga, I believe that goes on today, right?
Indeed.
So we look forward to more updates on that. As well, in The Guardian, we have relief for Nigerians as food inflation eases to single digit after 10 years. On the left-hand side of The Guardian, still 70% of Nigerians living with epilepsy untreated, say experts. Very interesting report there. It must have a lot of details that would be nice to uncover. Looking next at the New Telegraph, we have a terror war. Trump sends 100 more military personnel to Nigeria. America sanctions 8 Nigerians over links to Boko Haram and cybercrimes. Now, currently, at the moment, we are still having our international papers loading. But while we wait for that, let's take a look at what's going on in the local papers. Now, Benga, let's look at a story that's on the front of This Day and the Punch as well. With this 432 billion naira probe, EFCC detains El-Rufai and the DSS is on standby. Now, as we all know, former Kaduna Governor Nasir El-Rufai was detained by the EFCC yesterday evening, and this also came after hours of interrogation. His arrest was in connection with an alleged 432 billion naira probe. Over the past few days, El-Rufai has been headlining. Now, from his ambush at the Abuja International Airport over a no-show because of the invitation that, had been given to him, finally now he has been detained. Now, just as you mentioned yesterday, Benga, when we were discussing this issue, we had our correspondents on the ground who were covering the report. And according to a senior EFCC source, the commission had been investigating El-Rufai for the past 1 year. Now, what do you say about the public perception concerning all the mayhem and all of this commotion that we've been seeing associated to Nasir El-Rufai?
Now, you talked about mayhem, you talked about commotion. So the question we must ask is that, are these really necessary? They are completely needless, utterly needless. And I think that our institutions should learn to do their job more professionally so that it should be devoid of unnecessary drama I think this is getting too dramatic, if you ask me, because there are more professional way of handling this without subjecting that person to to a trial of public perception, trial of the media, trial of prosecution, and trial of drama, if you ask me. And I think this is not too. This is most uncharitable. If someone has committed an offense, go ahead, do your investigation. Then after the investigation, you can decide whether to prosecute the person or not. This is someone that worked responsibly to the EFCC headquarters yesterday to submit himself. That shows some sense of responsibility. Then on the issue of the trial, which comes on the ground of the Anti-Cyber Act crime of 2015 and the Communications Act of 2023. I think that the Office of the National Security Advisor, that might, depending on how they feel that they need to handle it, but I also think that besides this saboteur claims that they are staging, it's also a reminder that they need to beef up their security apparatus, because security is driven by technology. So they need to also take up that responsibility to beef up the security, because if everyone taps into that's complete exposure of our national security apparatus. Though he has not admitted that he did it, he said so a close associate who did it informed him. So so it will now be left to prove if he was complicit in that crime. So I think that our security agencies, institutions should do their work most professionally without giving too much of a public drama or theatrics.
You know, you've brought up some interesting points, but as well, we know that the spokesperson of the EFCC, Dele Oyewale, confirmed that El-Rufai was indeed, he honored the invitation, but unfortunately, he declined to give us comments on what the line of interrogation would be. So for now, we can only just imagine what the conversation is, what they are asking him. And from what we know about the EFCC, what do you think that we can expect from this detention?
Yeah, the law says not more than 24 hours. That would be an illegal detention. So I would want the EFCC to have done their homework and to responsibly, if he is due for prosecution, take him to court and let's see. Let's see this right of fair hearing, because as it is now, some certain very vital section of the law is being undermined, which is Section 43, Section 44, and Section 45, which provides for the right to fair hearing, the right to dignity, and the right to public trial. So when all this is being undermined, then it calls to question the integrity of the process.
Well, we look forward to how that story evolves, and we'll definitely still be following up with it and seeing how that report goes. Now, let's take a look at another headline in The Guardian, where we have 2027 National Assembly debate on Electoral Act continues, as eyes are now on January 16 for the presidential poll. Benga, what does it mean? It seemed like these dates keep shifting. Yesterday we heard a different date, and now we have, this potential January 16. You've been following the story closely. What do you know about it?
Yeah, I think bringing the election date forward might put a lot of pressure on INEC, because what we want to see are tripod benchmarks, which the first deals with the capacity of INEC, the other deals with the need to promote voter participation and also to increase public confidence in our electoral process. So now, bringing the date forward now will no doubt put a lot of pressure on INEC, because for now INEC will be running blind on what the public and the civil society organizations started this campaign about, that flashpoints, that troublesome, controversial clause of the electoral draft, section 60, subsection 3, and we still have about 19 other clauses that needs to be harmonized. So now it looks like someone is buying time to frustrate this process, because the law says that the election timetable should be out a year before the election. So when all this is not properly put in place, it now puts INEC at a very compromised position, which is not good for our electoral credibility, if you ask me. So yesterday, we saw what happened. The two major committees were meant to meet yesterday to harmonize the contentious clauses, and so that getting to this emergency meeting, this all-important emergency meeting, which is meant to be the grand finale to mop up or to clean up all the contentious areas, was also jettisoned yesterday. And everything was now moved. We understand that it was moved to the private residence of the Senate President.
Oh.
So now, for the optics, it defies every sense of logic and every sense of responsibility that our electoral process could be dragged to such a casual state, if you ask me. It doesn't show sense of responsibility, sense of urgency, and sense of commitment to good governance, if you ask me.
What about the emergency plenary that's supposed to hold for today? What are your sentiments on that?
Yes, I think, again, we've lost a lot of ground, if you ask me. But we can only do what we can do. So I think that is necessary for us to harmonize this. But again, Section 60, subsection 3 is sacrosanct to the people's wish and aspiration to our democratic future. And that is what the people want. So anything that contravenes it, anything that undermines this, is like a coup, is like a treason against the people's wish. Because the government is a representation. They are representative of the people. The citizens are actually the government. But we all cannot occupy. So we do a franchise to these few people in power to represent our wish, to represent our voice. That's the essence of democracy. So it's power. It should be power to the people, not to a few. That's oligarchy, if you ask me. It's not. It's no longer democracy.
Strong words there, Benga. Well, let's douse this fire down a little bit.
Fire.
And, yes, fire.
Who stokes the fire?
Well, you are definitely fanning the flames now.
No, I'm not fanning the flames. I'm not fanning the embers. But we need our government to understand what the people want.
Absolutely.
And that's the simple essence of democracy. It's inalienable, it's inviolable, and it's an inescapable moral responsibility that the government should have towards its citizens.
Well spoken. Let's look at another headline in Nigerian Tribune. This time we have some positive news, Benga, as inflation drops to 15.10%. Food prices crash. This is according to the National Bureau of Statistics. Now, the latest Consumer Price Index report was released by the NBS yesterday. The report states that the technicalities of what has changed in the economy and here, let's break down the facts. Now, according to the report, prices of goods are still rising, but the difference is that it is at a slightly slower pace than it has been before. Now, experts had predicted inflation could rise to 19%, but it did not, as anticipated. Now, the general price index also fell, showing that overall prices reduced a bit in January. Compared to January of 2025, inflation is much lower, down from 27.61% to 15.10%. Now, on a month-to-month basis, prices actually dropped in January, meaning that some goods have actually become cheaper. Food prices slowed down significantly, especially items like yams, eggs, beans, rice substitutes, cooking oil, and beef. Now, overall speaking, prices are still high, as we said before, but the rate at which they're increasing has slowed down significantly, and some prices are beginning to fall. Positive news for the economy, Benga.
Yes, at the risk of not sounding too much, too overly pessimistic, but there are some fundamental questions we need to ask about this new economic reality that looks so welcoming. We've seen sharp decrease in food prices, but the question which we should ask is very rhetorical with what you've said, in the sense that some analysts had predicted a 19% rise in Nigeria's headline inflation. And this is because there is an outlier period that one needs to watch out for, so that we'll be able to differentiate between having a statistical improvement or a structural improvement in the economic reality. But it's good that we've had that major decline in food inflation from 14% to 8.9%. It's coming down to single digits, and this is attributed to increase in food supplies. But now this consumer price index is coming with a lot of very disturbing signs, which is state disparity, which is also caused by a lot of peculiarities like market efficiency, border dynamics, and also access to food supplies, access to transport logistics, and many other things. And even the price, the price of PMS differs from one state to another. So you discover that most of the part that has this increase in their inflation rate are very prone to those things that we have highlighted so far. So now when you look at this, the 2025 is used as a base year. So now we need to do a month by month difference in this issue. So when you look at the decline, we've had a substantial decline if you look at a yearly basis analysis. But when you look at month by month, you will discover that the progress is a bit slow. When you look at the month by month period benchmark, so you'll notice that so there is a need to watch out for the outlier period, which is 3 to 6 months of when an inflation data is being released. Considering a very volatile economy like Nigeria, we need to watch out for those very delicate periods.
Right. And perhaps as well, we need to discuss the disparity between what these reports actually say and the reality that is faced. Because this is not the first time that we've carried such a report. We've had a World Bank report previously that said that, the cost of living had gone down. But when you talk to the everyday person, they have a very different story to tell.
Yeah, the cost of living is still high, but there's a sharp fall in the cost of food. Food importation also had gone a bit low. So there is a potential promise, but we need to be, this is a cautious release, if you ask me, because of the outlier period, which we need to watch out for in a very volatile economy like Nigeria. Of course, we've had also a very encouraging rate in forex stability. So this has also contributed to what we've seen so far. But as a professional analyst would need to watch out for this outlier period to determine if we are not having a statistical improvement or a real structural improvement, which every Nigerian desires.
Absolutely. Now let's move on to our next story. And here we're going to carry an international headline, but this international headline is on the front page of The Punch. Now we have a story that transcends local and international news as tragedy has struck a young Nigerian student living in South Africa. And the headline is that the court remands suspected killers of South Africa-based Nigerian student. Now, last week, on the 11th of February, many witnessed the horrific viral dashcam footage of a 22-year-old engineering student who was viciously murdered a month before his graduation. His name was Isaac Satlat, and he was an e-hailing driver. Now we have a major update in the story as suspects have finally been arraigned. And those are the ones that you see on your screen right now as they stand there and hang their heads in shame. Now, according to the local media outlet, the suspects, Dikeledi Mpela, who's 25, Gotsione Machidi, 26, and McLaren Mushwana, 30, appeared in court yesterday and will remain in custody until February the 23rd as the investigation continues. The trio face charges of murder and carjacking. Now, Benga, this horrific murder has many people talking. Is this a case of being at the wrong place at the wrong time? Or is this part of the persistent issues of targeted xenophobic attacks that have been ongoing issues in South Africa. We've been seeing a lot of these attacks in the past years, and it's made such a controversy and such a big conversation around the safety of other African nationals in South Africa. So is this related to that, or do you think this is just a case of this innocent young man doing his job, trying to make a living, being at the wrong place at the wrong time, being ambushed by this trio and, you know, ending up in a very tragic murder?
First, I would say it's a sad commentary. It's a very tragic occurrence that a 22-year-old,
yes,
regardless of his nationality, trying to earn an innocent living,
yes,
in a foreign land, is murdered at his prime, age 22, at Atteridgeville. So I think South Africa has had this consistent narrative,
right?
but it has more. It has more instructive influence on Nigeria as a nation. Now, in a situation where even, let's break it down, communities, they have local leaders when they settle in faraway states. They have their leaders. So how come that we've treated diplomacy, citizenship diplomacy, so frivolous that we are yet to appoint an ambassador after 3 years? In government. So when we don't have a leader in a strategic state like South Africa that has a lot of Nigerian population,
Right.
now no one to give them that safety induction in terms of the rules of engagement, in terms of guide, you understand? So the people are they are open, they are exposed, and they are vulnerable to many of these things. It looks like diplomacy looks like niceties, but it's a very serious responsibility act, if you ask me. And many of these things, it might be happening, but when you have a situation where the people are so helpless, begging for even as something as very germane as repatriation, it shows how exposed a Nigerian citizen is in faraway country. And I think we should use this opportunity to draw the attention and to send this distress plea to the government of this country to take citizenship diplomacy very serious. This should not be happening to anyone, regardless of who we are. And we claim to be the largest democracy in Africa. It's very mostly uncharitable, if you ask me.
And I think you've opened a can of worms with what you've said, because there's such a plethora of issues that are related. Yes, we have the issue of insufficient, ambassadors in different countries, but also we have the economic challenges in the nation that force people to run and find greener pastures that are, well, not exactly greener, especially in South Africa, that we know, as I was saying, riddled with stories of these xenophobic attacks, but you still find young people trying to go out there and make a living because they can't make it here in the country. So it's just very sad that someone's life was snuffed out. 22 years old is very young, working to make an innocent living only to be tragically murdered. And, I hope that a good sentence is given, a sentence that is, worthy of the justification that the family can get, the justice, I mean, sorry.
Yeah,
but they can never be fully get their justice, because they've lost a child, they've lost a brother, they've lost a son. But at least, something that shows that this can't continue to go on.
So justice is not negotiable in this case.
Absolutely.
But more fundamentally, we need a reassurance from the Nigerian government and the government of South Africa that there will be no recurrence, because as it is now, it's living a huge risk threshold, and no assurance that this would not reoccur again.
Yes.
It's rather unfortunate.
Wow, thank you, Benga, for breaking down the headlines with me this morning. It was
also a very delightful experience.
Absolutely. I enjoyed this conversation.